Yeah, one of my favorite parts in that whole thing was Audra McDonald singing Climb Every Mountain.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
so
goodness.
good.
That was amazing. But yes, and you were talking about so many nuances. One thing that caught my attention when watching it is how multifaceted it actually is, without going off into a million different directions and confusing the audience, because you have relationships between a romantic relationship between the Captain Von Trapp and Maria, and then you have a relationship between children and father and children and Maria, and then you have Eleanor Parker, who, that sassy little
Love
Baroness,
her.
knew
Love
exactly what she
her.
was doing when she told, yes, she told Maria, he's in love with you. And I think she knew that that
hmm
was going to scare Maria away. And yet she did
hmm
it, which we can talk about her too.
She said, I have an agenda. She said, I've got things to do, baby.
She does. Yeah, she did. She took that blonde wig, she put it to good use. But yeah, and then you have like political strife, political anger, which all families can relate to. You have this great empowering moment where Peggy Wood comes and tells Julie Andrews, climb that every mountain. And then talking about Kim Karath, you have her. She was robbed that she didn't get an Oscar for Gretel. I mean, one of the greatest joys of rewatching this movie was just watching Kim Karath and what she did. She when Go watch the movie when Christopher Plummer is singing Edelweiss to the children, and just the one look that Gretel gives him. She has so much conviction in that one look. I mean, she outshines the Reverend Mother singing "Climb Every Mountain" with that one look. But yes, I mean the entire thing is kind of genius when you think of what it went through to get to the place that it did. And then it had something for everybody to love, and that's why the entire world, it broke box office records in 29 countries. So Rachel, would you like to hear a little bit of the making of Sound of Music?
Absolutely. Please tell me everything. I want it all.
I will tell you everything, all 10 of my typed pages.
Yes.
So I think we need to really go back to the start of everything. Vienna in 1905,
The start,
or
we'll
in
start at the very beginning. A
we
very
will
good place
start
to
at the very
start.
yes, yes. We will start at the very beginning. A very good place to start, and we need to start in Austria in 1905 on a train that was racing towards Vienna. It was racing towards Vienna because Maria von Trapp was coming out of her mother's womb, and the conductor was acting as midwife, and they were trying to get to the hospital. But unfortunately, Maria arrived before they could get to the hospital. So that's when Maria was born. Now, in 1910, really the beginning of kind of the Von Trapp story, Captain Von Trapp, who was a very well-esteemed naval commander in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, he met, I think it was Augusta. He met his wife, Augusta Whitehead, at a ball, and her father had invented the submarine. So they fell madly in love, and they got married, I think around that same time. And then they had those 7 children that you see in the movie. And so then in 1922, there was an outbreak of scarlet fever in Austria, and all of the children caught it. And their mother, the first Mrs. Von Trapp, was trying to nurse them back to health, and she caught it, and she died. Now, going back to Maria Von Trapp, when she was 2 years old, her mother passed away, and her father sent her to live with some cousins, which I believe included her aunt and uncle. And after her father died, her uncle became her guardian, and they were all very strict atheists, and they were very strict socialists. And that's how she was raised, and she was raised in a family of adults. So she kind of had a hard childhood, and she kind of had a tomboy edge. So then when she was in college, there was a Jesuit priest who came to the college where she was at, and he was lecturing, and she found that his unwavering faith and his tranquility, it greatly drew her to him. So then she went and she had a discussion with him after the lecture, and she dedicated her life to God. So after she graduated from college, she went to, I believe it was Nonnberg Abbey, where she became a postulant. Now, she did have that kind of hard edge, and she was a tomboy, so it was getting her in a lot of trouble at Nonnberg Abbey. There was a rule that none of the nuns could look out of the window. If they look out of the window, they had to kiss the ground. And like Julie Andrews says in the movie, what is it, Sister Berta? She's like, every time she sees Sister Berta coming, she kisses the ground just to save time. Yes, yes. So that's a little funny line in the movie. But anyway, After a certain amount of time, because she was a tomboy and because she was having severe headaches, and the doctor said, well, she needs to be out, she needs to be running around in nature, the Reverend Mother sent her to the house of the Von Trapps to be governess to one of the young daughters. Not all 7 children, but one of the 1 daughters, because she had contracted rheumatic fever and she couldn't get out that much. So Maria went to the house of the Von Trapps and was going to nurse this child back to health on the condition that she could come back to the Abbey after 9 months and stay there permanently. In 1927, well, there's this whole great big story that I was listening to about, it was kind of the drama that's in The Sound of Music, where Maria kind of fell in love with the captain, even though he was 25 years her senior, and he fell in love with her. And but he was like dating a princess, not a baroness, but it was some sort of a European princess at the time. And she went to him, and she went to Maria, and she told Maria that the captain's in love with you. So then when Maria went to the captain and said, well, the princess has told me everything, he mistook it and said, oh, really? So you will marry me? So he thought that the princess had gone to Maria and said, the captain wants to marry you. So she got married, not exactly wanting to. So, but they were in love, they found each other attractive. So anyway, they got married, and then they had 3 children on top of that. So the original 7 children's names, trivia question, Rachel, do you know the original the children's names in the films? Can you name them?
The film names I know, and
Okay.
my choir in high school went to Austria, and so we did the Sound of Music tour, and they did
Right.
tell us their names on the tour. Couldn't tell you. I feel like one of their names is the same, but it's Liesel, Friedrich, Louisa, Kurt, Brigitte, Marta, Gretel are the ones in the film.
Right.
I
And
feel like one of them's the same. Isn't it Kurt
it
or Gretel or something?
it's almost the same. So the original 7 Von Trapp children were Rupert, Agatha, Maria Franziska, Werner, Hedwig, Johanna, and Martina.
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 That's right. Agatha's one of them. I was like, it's been Agatha all along.
It is, yes. But can you imagine if they used those names in the movie? I don't think it would have been as successful.
It
You
wouldn't,
know,
but we would have giggled now. Like
we
we
would
would have had
have.
a good time. But like the other kids would have been like, it's Werner. It sounds like Wiener. Like
Or Hedwig.
people would have just like lost their minds at the German names.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And, we all love the name Gretel, especially on Kim Karath. It's absolutely perfect. Captain Von Trapp had, um, at the end of World War One, when the Austrian-Hungarian Empire split, he had lost his position as naval commander because he was a part of Austria and they no longer had an ocean. So that was like strike number 1. That kind of threw him into a dark depression. And then his wife died in 1922, and that threw him into another dark depression. And then the other dark depression that came along is when they had to leave Austria when Hitler took over. So what happened was when Maria came into the house, she was musical. The children were already musical, though. They would sing, and the father would play his violin or mandolin to all of their singing. And so she came in and she brought music into the household also. And then there was, I believe it was a priest named Father Werner who came in, and he allowed them to sing in his church. He kind of helped them with church music and different stuff like that. But then there was a German concert singer, Lottie Lehmann, heard them singing in their home in Salzburg, and Lottie Lehmann persuaded them to take part in this song competition at the 1936 Salzburg Festival, which they won a prize. So what had happened in 1935, Captain Von Trapp had taken all of his money. He was living off of his previous wife's fortune because her father had invented the torpedo. So they were absolutely loaded.
Whoa.
So they had a lot of money. He took all of the money out of an English bank, or a bank in England, and he put it in an Austrian bank. And in 1935, all of the banks in Austria collapsed. So they lost all of their money. So what the children had to do then was they had to go out and learn how to work and do different household chores and take care of houses. So, it's not as happy as the singing children in Sound of Music, because by the time, by the time that Sound of Music starts, the film, they're already dead broke, and they had to start leasing out their house to different people, their giant villa. They originally, Father Werner, who was turned into Max in the movie, and Lottie Lehmann said, you should go and you should sing at this festival, which they won. Captain Von Trapp had a problem with his children singing at any festival, because the Austrian high society, even though he had lost all of his money, he was still highly revered in Austria because he was this great naval captain. In the book I was listening to, his status as a naval commander was comparable to Eisenhower in America after World War II. So it was looked down upon in Austria for them to be paid to sing because, actors were greatly looked down upon then, as we
Oh,
are today.
actors. Oh.
I know, yuck. That's what I say every time I look in the mirror is yuck. But
oh boy.
oh, man. But then they won the prize at the Salzburg Festival. So they won the prize, which perpetuated a tour where they toured Europe singing. They toured the United States where they went singing. They made a lot of money. They were able to make a good deal of money off of the Von Trapp family singers. And I believe at first they called themselves the Von Trapp Family Choir, and then they finally changed them to the Von Trapp Family Singers. And so then I believe after they went on the tour, they got back from the United States, Hitler asked them twice to come sing for him in his home. And the first time they turned him down because they said, no, we're still on tour. We're so sorry. So the first time it was forgiven. The second time they turned him down, it was a big ordeal because you did not turn Hitler down twice because they had finished the tour and they were back. He also requested that Captain Von Trapp, of course, in the movie, as you see, they offered him a position in in the German Navy, which he turned down also because none of them were about to be a part of what the Nazis stood for. So then they did not climb that mountain out of Austria. I'm sorry to ruin everybody's vision of what actually happened. They took a train to Italy, and they took a train for several reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because Maria was very far on in her third pregnancy. So I cannot see her climbing a mountain out of Austria and Italy. The second reason is because the mountain that Robert Wise used in the actual Sound of Music movie, that mountain led right directly up to one of Hitler's camps. So they would have just, walked right into one of his estates had they taken that mountain. And then there's a third reason. Well, the borders to Austria had not closed yet. Funnily enough, the day after they took the train out of Austria to Italy, Hitler closed the borders to Austria. So they escaped right in the nick of time. And then they were in Italy for a little bit. They went to the Netherlands and they ended up in Vermont in the United States, pretty much dead broke. But they continued to tour and make money that way. But in the early 1940s, they opened up the Von Trapp family. It's the Von Trapp Family Lodge in Vermont. I wanted to ask you if you'd been there before.
I haven't been there. It's in Stowe, Vermont, for those wondering. Yes. No, I have a friend whose family, that's where they vacation. Hey, Kate, if you're listening, love you. Another fellow Sound of Music, Julie File. But no, her family has a place up there. But I have not been up there because I am a West Coaster, and so going to Vermont was not an easy trek for a former Seattleite. But I do, now that I live closer, I want to go up there because I've always wanted to.
I know. And now that we're on the East Coast, we should make a trek to the Von Trapp family, Vermont.
Listen, go.
Everybody listening, Rachel and I and some other friends, we recently went to the Renaissance Fair, which was absolutely amazing.
We did. It was a blast.
It was so much fun. I got so sunburned, but I had such a beautiful tan after several days. We ate, I don't know.
We ate too much food. We ate way too much food that was smothered in grease.
We had runny diarrhea. We got heat exhaustion.
We were worried on the bus. That's right. We were like, oh, Lord.
I know.
Help us on this bus back.
We heard a girl throw up so many times because she had so much meat.
She had so much meat. That poor girl. For viewers, for context, the New York State Renaissance Fair has a bus that goes from Port Authority. So we took the bus, and because of where we were in line to get back on the bus at the end of the fair, we sat right next to the bus bathrooms. So you have the combination of a bus bathroom, everybody having been in the heat of the entire day. And most people are in costume. So it's they're dehydrated. You're only drinking mead. The fair was incredible, but this poor girl was just not having it on the back of the bus. And so we just were sitting there awkwardly oh, Lord help her. Help this sweet girl.
We inconveniently took the seats right next to the bathroom. Too.
Right next to the bathroom.
We listened to all of it happen. But that's okay. We'll go to the Von Trapp family lodge and we'll drink.